My name's Cody. You guys probably know me from the channel Cody Tarot. Today I want to do something a little different. I don't even know if I'm going to post this, but I just wanted to talk and just share things and just like see what comes out, like stream of consciousness, no cards, no tarot cards, just see what's going to come out and what I'm going to talk about. So I might sit in a few moments of silence just to like get images of what I want to talk about. Already know what I'm going to talk about. I just got an image. Let's talk about like preachers or prophets, people who have a message, people who, I know you guys, know this about me, but I ruminate on like the symbolism in playing cards. Not necessarily what other people say the playing cards mean, but just ruminating on the symbolism. And the card 5, like if you look at a playing card that's a card 5, I don't have one on me, but it's like 4 corners in the card have a symbol, and then the middle symbol is like just there, right? And I always see this as like being center of attention, right? So you have all the 4 environment focusing on the 1 in the middle. And this is kind of how I see preachers, prophets, people who like have all the answers, right? I talk to my dad a lot about this because, we talk often about how sometimes people have the answers, or they think they have the answers, or they present themselves that they have the answers, but maybe they don't know what they're talking about, or like, there's some kind of like secret where you have to like pay them to like get the answer or something like that. But yeah, overall, the 5 in the symbols that I'm thinking of, it usually represents one person with strength, or one person who has a skill or a talent. And then the 4 around it are people who need that talent. The way I would describe this is turning into like how I interpret playing cards, but like the way I would describe this for like a hearts playing card would just be like the pure charisma of the self. So for example, someone with a hearts center would be someone who's more along the lines of just famous, like someone who's a heartthrob or like attractive, or is the center of attention when it comes to love and people's projections of love. So people often look to these types of people as like love idols. They're loving them, and the 5 is like that idolization thing. So it's like they have the answers just because they're either beautiful or talented in some way, or represent kind of like an emotional, they pull on the emotions, right? You also have the 5 of clubs, which is someone who's like an intellectual, like probably more close to what I'm talking about, like a prophet or a preacher or something like that. Sometimes in some cases I would consider myself a 5 of clubs energy because I have a tarot channel, and people come to me for my tarot videos and they're looking to me for information or answers, and I'm providing that, right? So it's anyone who's kind of like in that center role, and then you have people around them who like want that thing and they come to them. 5 of diamonds could be someone who's like selling goods, or a business or a company like Starbucks or something, and people who need coffee come to them. Diamonds is like money and material things. So it could even be like someone selling clothes or something like that. But overall, I want to talk about this concept because sometimes when we come to a certain person for a certain skill or thing that we need, it can often represent like our own shadow in a way. I'm trying to think of how this would play out for me, because I guess that like my need, this is where it's getting like abstract, because I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just like talking. My need is like EDM music for sure, because it just represents this void for me, especially EDM music where there's not many lyrics or there's not much association with anything, and they're using like single words. Like I almost view that as kind of like a mantra, like a meditation mantra, So I usually tend to stay away from EDM music that's like, oh, shake that ass or whatever, like sometimes I'll listen to that for fun, but like I really listen for the electronic sounds because it soothes my mind, it puts me into a void, and it lets me think without like the music making me think about something. Like, if you have a love song, or if you have a song about, like hip hop songs are all about empowerment and like I beat the system or what, I don't know. Like, I don't know what other types of music are. But they make you think and associate with certain images and stuff through the words that they're catalyzing in your mind. So for me, like, I just like the purity of the sense that there's this void where like I'm not being controlled by any kind of music or any kind of thing outside myself that's telling me how to think. So in a way, I get this sense of emptiness when I listen to EDM music. And sometimes just simple phrases in certain songs that are repeated, right? That repetition can turn into kind of a mantra. And even though there's this thing repeating itself, your mind is not repeating itself. Your mind gets to go all the way and like finish thoughts and complete thoughts without getting stuck in one thing. Like if you have a love song that's going on for 3 minutes, you're really just like thinking about love or like thinking about your past partners, or you're like stuck in this love loop. But maybe you naturally, without these like things in your environment influencing your mind, maybe you don't think about love that often, you know? And I'm kind of, it's interesting because like we do distract ourselves with entertainment. We do distract ourselves with things that we need to change our mental perceptions. And usually it's because I honestly, I feel this. I can't speak for everyone, but I think it's usually because we have this desire to not face what we're thinking about. And that's another thing that I've learned to do recently. For a long time, I struggled with like really like dark and negative, intrusive thoughts. And then they were like leaking into my manifestations sometimes. And so I would have like these things in my outer reality that were like representative of my dark thoughts, and just like imagining like horrific fires and then seeing them like weeks later and stuff like that. And I used to think I was like creating that in my reality until I learned that like, there's this whole thing with manifestation where you can manifest things, like you can visualize things and project outward and bring it to you and use that consciously. But sometimes the world is using you in a different way. Like it's almost like even though you're thinking it and maybe you're projecting it or it's coming to your mind like that, sometimes it's more like, for some people, it's more like a premonition. It's kind of more like the fact that they're seeing something before it happens. A good example of this, I ran into a girl at Trader Joe's. I used to work at a fitness gym a long time ago. I still work out, like it's a big part of my life, but I cannot work at a gym. Like that was just not my vibe, I guess. That was not, I even became a personal trainer. I like got a 97% on the certification. I'm very proud of that because a lot of people who are like super into the gym couldn't get that high of a test score, but I was able to, so kudos to me. shameless ego thing going on. But yeah, basically what was I talking about before I started bragging about my test scores? Yeah, thoughts. And then like being with your thoughts. Sorry, I got distracted, so I can't finish that story. Hopefully you guys aren't like too pissed. That's how my brain works, so I get distracted. And sometimes like even when I'm doing pick a cards and tarot readings, like I will start reading and then like sometimes I'll just have a stop in my head and like my brain will go blank. And it's in the weirdest times too. It's not like it's almost like I'm not trying to think of something profound to say, like I have to really think about it. Like, because oftentimes the words just come out. It's always like either I can't think of one word or I can't think of, or my brain just stops and my brain's like, you need a break for like however long. Usually it's like 1.5 to 2 minutes where I'm just staring at the cards, dumbfounded, like no like thinking or anything. And then like, looking, I'm kind of analyzing, but not really because there's nothing going on in my head. And then I just start reading again, Yeah, so this is kind of like, we're at 9 minutes. I probably can make this a little bit longer. We can talk a little bit more. It's so interesting. Like there's a certain dynamic in my hometown that's been kind of interesting to me, and I guess I can talk about this. It's a little bit of venting. I'm going to try and get back around to profits, and maybe we'll circle back around, and we'll get to some kind of thing about them too. But there's this thing where I've noticed that like online platforms, like really, if there's a need, people will find you, right? I've given a lot of tarot readings in my hometown. I really wanted to branch out and connect with the community and do all that stuff. And that was a lot of fun. And I had like a great opportunity at a local bar and someone gave me that opportunity to read there. And that was really cool. But I learned that like it's not as well received as I do online readings. And there's a lot of like misconceptions in different areas where people live about tarot reading in general and doing readings and stuff like that. Like for some people, like there's a huge misconception in my neighborhood where they feel like you have to be in person to get a reading or to get like a real energetic exchange. And I'm just trying to tell people like, no, like all I need is like a name to call the person and their question, and I don't need anything else, and I can give an accurate reading. Or I like to think I can give an accurate reading. Sometimes when I'm giving the reading, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm a total fraud. But then like I give the person the reading and they came back and they're like, you knew so many details that I couldn't have even told you that were so specific and blah, blah, blah. And so I get that little ego boost, but it's always a shot in the dark. It's like, man, I don't know if this is accurate. That's the weird thing. And that's the weird thing with certain types of intuition. You're almost given the info without the ability to know if you're correct, right? Or without any kind of feeling of like, sometimes intuition comes in the form of like, there's no proof to know it's the right thing, but you still know. You're channeling or something, but you don't get to know if it's accurate. Like I never finish a tarot reading and go, yeah, that was spot on. I really nailed this thing, because in order to nail a piece of information, you have to have another piece of information to reference it to. And without that, when you only just get a question and a name, or when you just get someone's like basic storyline and you don't have anything to reference it to, it's just pure shooting like into the dark, and that like trips me out. That's like wild that like trips me out so much. And it trips me out that just like, like pulling a card, sorry, I'm dropping cards, just pulling cards out, like after shuffling, just by like asking a question, you get all these images and then you pull information from the images, and it just trips me out what I do. But that's not what this is about. I'm trying to talk about other things. Maybe the first thing can be about tarot, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, prophets. Let's go back to prophets. They have all the answers. And I've noticed some prophets, like this is just my experience, but like Bashar and Abraham Hicks and stuff like that. I noticed a lot of people with like maneuvering the conversation, like taking control of the conversation, in order to redirect it, or like redirect people's feelings or emotions, or like the way things are perceived. And I kind of noticed that with some like gurus, or like people channeling people. Like I know Abraham and Bashar are all channeled, right, through Esther and Daryl. And for a while I was like listening to these people, and it made a lot of sense, and I felt like they were really intelligent. But after I would listen to them, like my life would take these dark turns down like not lucky paths, and I'd be like miserable for a month, and I'd be like emotional and like crying and just hurting and all this stuff. And it didn't feel like the information relieved me of any kind of like feeling, is the best way to put it. Sorry, my laundry just slowed down, so I slowed down. But at the same time, it doesn't stop us from searching. That's the thing. And we keep searching. And that's the interesting thing about it, is that like, at least for me, like I'm always looking for spiritual answers, like from other people, from my own experiences. But my thing that I always preach in my tarot channel, and that I always follow myself, is I always follow my own judgment. I always follow my own understandings. Whatever information and understanding about life that I have developed, I follow that first and foremost, rather than what anyone else says. I'm not the type of person to blindly follow any kind of leader or any kind of person in a group that is just, I think I used to when I was really young. But I had a lot of experiences that showed me that like I have to experience something myself before I can really feel or like say anything about it. The only time I will say something about things that I have not gone through is usually in a tarot reading. And that's because you can't possibly know everything everyone's going through in a tarot reading. You're just getting information. And I always say that to people, like, I've never gone through this, like, I haven't been through this myself, but like, I'm just reading what I see in the cards. And I'll like let people know that, you know, because in the cards, sometimes you see the lesson, you see the solution, you see the problem, you see like the bridge to get there. You see all these like connections in the storyline and the story arc. And even though you haven't lived through it yourself, you're still seeing that. But also on the flip side, a lot of stuff in tarot, like I can parallel it to stories in my own life. And it just makes me realize how it's all very much connected, how we're all very much connected, you know? It's so interesting because I started this video trying to talk about prophets and stuff. That it almost seems like insignificant. Like just the idea of someone giving you the answers or telling you the truth or telling you how things are, how the universe operates. And part of me feels like these people know a little bit how it operates. But I also feel like they're painting a picture, you know, like it's like looking through a camera lens at a certain exposure. You're seeing what's really in front of the camera and the camera's taking a picture of that. But there's like shutter speed, exposure, all that kind of stuff. And if you were to just look at it with your own two eyes, without all the filters, without the exposure and stuff like that, you would be seeing the truth. But if you're looking at someone's recording of that truth, it's very difficult to see what's really there. This is coming from someone who feels like they've never seen what's really there, you know? Like, I just feel like I've never just like seen the underpinnings of how reality works. And I feel like maybe that's part of knowing how it works. Because if you can't see it, you can know it. I don't know. It's so interesting to like think about these things and to ponder these things. But yeah, that 5 symbol, it's the whole symbol about like someone who's shining brightly. You know, it's kind of like, if you think about it, I'm reminded of like astrology and like, you know, like black holes and like the sun and stuff like that, and things in outer space that emanate light, and things that suck in light, or things that like dark planets like Saturn or Mars. Like, not saying my viewers, my followers are dark planets. Oh my God, I'm gonna get so much slack for that. But like, there's a light that shines out on the other person's darkness. So whatever the other person is experiencing, like think of the sun when it hits an object, it creates a shadow, right? So whenever there's a big bright ball of something that is illuminating everything, it is easily revealing other people's shadows. So like, for example, 5 of Spades is a good one that I can talk about. Spades I see as motivation, people's energy, people's vitality, people's life force. At least right now, that's how I see it. And so a 5 of Spades is someone who's like a motivator, someone who's like Tony Robbins, or like any kind of guy at the gym who has like a group of people around him and he's the strong one and they're all like the weak ones learning from him. You know, you can think of like, I guess Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't really know his story, or I don't know like how his friend group operated, but yeah, it's basically like there's this someone who's the center of attention and they're surrounded by kind of like followers, you know, and people are looking to them for their strength. I do see this as important in society. I do see that someone sharing their viewpoint and their information is very helpful for people on their growth path. Ultimately, do I think it needs to be abandoned? Yes. But who am I to say? Because I have certain things in my life that I probably will never abandon. I have for a little bit, but I keep coming back to these specific things over and over again. Some of that stuff is music, like EDM, electronic music, because it lets me have freedom in my own head. And so sometimes I think about that. I think about a few different things, like the ethics of tarot reading, right? Like on one hand, right? Like, what if I'm easing anxieties? I'm easing doubts, you know, and it like gives people this comfort about the future, something like that. But then on the flip side, like, wouldn't it be good if people could do that for themselves? You know, what if people could ease their own anxieties or just be comfortable with embracing the unknown? And, you know, because I've learned to do that in my life, you know, for me, like, sometimes if I keep flipping cards and doing readings for myself, I get in this like loop, right? And sometimes it's good to just put the cards down and kind of look at your life and just say like, okay, let me be in the present moment. Let me walk outside today and do something impulsive that I want to do instead of trying to figure out every little thing, or like every little action. Like sometimes we think like, oh, how will this play out? Like, how will this new job play out? How will this new relationship play out? And sometimes it can be more fun to just like go into it without knowing. And I've learned this, like, that kind of like not knowing and just like letting your body go on the ride can be really enjoyable. It can be painful too. So I understand if you're like trying to avoid pain, sometimes it's helpful to know in advance how something's gonna play out. But honestly, like, even though I've experienced some pain in my life, I say this in retrospect, when I'm in the pain, I'm like, get me out of here. But in retrospect, it's like, I appreciate the pain that has happened in my life. You know, do I want to experience it forever? No. Do I want to keep growing in a direction where there's less pain? Yes. Do I think the pain I went through is necessary? Sometimes. I'm not the type of person who believes that everything happens for a reason. At least not all the time. Sometimes I see the reason behind things. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened to make this happen. But oftentimes there's certain things in life where I'm like, there's no reason for that, you know? There's no reason why that would have happened to me that I can see yet, as of yet, right? Speaking of gurus and stuff, a lot of them talk about your higher self, being able to see everything from a different perspective, where you're traveling, you know, through life and through different realms and stuff. Your higher self sees that perspective and kind of knows where you're going to end up, knows why the things need to happen the way they're happening. There's that perspective in the spiritual community. Yeah, thank you guys for talking with me today. Shared a little bit about prophet. I don't have too much to say. Sorry, my throat's getting a little scratchy. I don't have too much to say about prophets. You know, it's so funny. I have this friend, you know, we talk about like different things, and she has these like little quick witticisms that she says, and we talk about like religion and like gods and stuff like that. And she always says like, oh, I don't worship, like, what does she say? False idols. And so you can kind of think of that like, you know, even like for me, like the concept of God, like hopefully I don't piss people off with this, but because that's not my intention, is to like irritate you or make you mad. My intention with this video is to just kind of show things from my perspective, and if it resonates with your perspective, that's great. And I have nothing against Christians or people who believe in God, but the point she's trying to make is that God is a creation of our own mind. It's something that we conceptualize and we put out there, and we give power over us because we put it out there. Any kind of aspect of faith is like that, where and that's the thing, like it could be real, right? But if we're all consciousness and we're experiencing things from our own sense of consciousness, and there's so many gods out there, you have to think about that. There's so many different interpretations of deities. There's so many different spiritual beliefs. If there was one specific thing that wanted to be called by a name and a particular image, right, then we would all be seeing that together. Like as a society, as a whole, we would all be seeing that together. But though we have this thing called beliefs and storytelling, you know, we actually have this ability to share ideas, and ideas are just conceptualizations. So in a way, they're like free reign, right? It's like free reign, but like it is just a conceptualization. Is it helpful? Yes. Do I like pray to angels? Yes. Do I pray to deities? I don't really specifically do deities. I just say the divine. I ask for like higher forces to work with me. But yeah, as soon as you're putting a name on it, like God or like Aphrodite, or I'm trying to think of other ones like Odin. I'm thinking of people in mythology, but like as soon as you put a name to that thing, you're creating a conceptualization. And do I believe you can still be attached to true spirituality using those names, those conceptualizations? Yes. I do believe you can still be attached to your spirituality with that. But it's just this little weird like syntax thing or grammatical thing, I guess you could say. Like I think it's syntax is the right word, hopefully. But it's like putting a name to something, like giving something a name, especially something that's not like tangible, like real. It's like that you created. You might as well just make up your own name for your deity. I could call my deity Bob or something. Like, I don't know. Whatever you call it, like, that's the thing. Like, there is no. Sometimes it helps to give it a name, maybe even for some people, because it puts it outside of you and it's helping you and stuff like that. But then as soon as you kind of start looking at other people's conceptualizations of your quote unquote God that you believe in, then you're letting someone else infiltrate your perspectives and your belief system and your own judgment, going back to your judgment, right? And going back to false prophets and like false prophets, but like prophets in general and like people who share information, as soon as you like, even though they are sharing that viewfinder of the truth, they're sharing their camera lens, they're saying, here's a picture of the truth. Look, the truth is so beautiful. Don't you want to see the truth? Ultimately, the truth comes from you. And ultimately, that's why I say on my channel, follow your own judgment. Like, I'm just a tarot reader reflecting things to you, but you have to follow your own path. I can give you lessons. I can give you like instructions even. Like, I can just tell you how things are going to play out, but until you live them yourself, like especially with tarot reading, until you've gone through the experience, that's really the joy of it all. That's really the fruit of life, essentially. Yeah. I think that we're coming to a place as a society. I mean, I'd like to think this. I don't know if this is totally true, but where we kind of believe in our own experiences and what we see and what we feel, no matter what anyone else says. Someone could tell you, I mean, this is really big in like the world of conspiracy theories. You could listen to someone like explain a conspiracy theory and it like might all like click, because remember, they're showing you that image of that thing. You can also think of this as like a 3D image, and they're showing you one angle of that image. And if you only look at it from that one angle, yes, this looks like an elephant, right? Or those pictures where it's like, those pictures where like at one point it looks like an old woman and then it looks like a beautiful woman. There's those illusions, right? Or does it look like a vase, or does it look like two faces? If you're only seeing things from one angle, you're not seeing the full truth. So people can kind of manipulate the truth in a sense, because they can show you about one angle of things and make you think something that is not true. People aren't doing this intentionally, I don't think. Hopefully not. Maybe some people are. I know in my tarot channel, I don't do that intentionally, but that's exactly what's happening. I'm showing you one perspective of the situation, right? From like channeled from me. And even if that's the thing, you can show a exact, really detailed picture of reality. The reading can be so accurate and so spot on that you're just like mind boggled. It's like, this person's in my head, but really it's just a snapshot of your reality. It's not what you're actually seeing, even though it can align up really closely. We have like a lot of special effects where we're saying like, I guess when Jurassic Park came out, we were like, oh my gosh, those dinosaurs look so real. Look at the graphics, But like, if you were actually alive when the dinosaurs were alive, I'm sure it would look a lot different, It's just this one perspective. And sometimes it's good to take a step back, get your head out of your phone. So I'm, society and there people complaining about the phones and stuff. Pull your head out of the camera, pull your head out of the TV screen, of like other people's perspectives, and just start thinking like, what do I think? What resonates with me? How do I personally jive with this philosophy? Just because someone is right most of the time doesn't mean they're right all of the time. Someone can be right 99% of the time, but sometimes there's that one thing that's off, and you're thinking like, that doesn't make sense. Their whole thing makes total sense. Like, how can I put it together because that one thing doesn't make sense? That's okay. They can be right for that 99% of the time, but that 1%, that's what you have to come up with. That's where your truth comes into play, and you have to say, this is what is the truth in this situation. That's kind of where we get into the territory of where like we become our own prophet, you know. We kind of become self-reliant in a spiritual sense. And that's kind of the aim that I achieve. That's kind of the aim that I'm trying to go towards. Now, I do know that maybe there's some people out there, and that's the thing, I don't know because I don't know your perspective, you know, but I'm assuming, or I'm guessing that there's people out there that just kind of look to someone else for answers, and they're comfortable with that. You know, maybe they're comfortable with that for a while, and maybe they need that for a while, but I think that it's healthy for us to realize that there's no single person outside of us that has all the answers. And we can rely on people for answers, which is great. You know, we can rely on people for like, you know, like this person might have a really good, this person, like for example, you take up people with their occupations, right? This guy studies finances, like he's gonna be really great to consult for taxes. This person knows about spirituality, they're gonna be really great to talk about with philosophy and stuff like that. But ultimately, right, we are our own deciding factor. Our own judgment is most important. So when you're watching a tarot reading, or anyone talking about anything really, like your own judgment is the most important thing. Do I still believe there are people who are talented or skilled in a particular area? Yes. There are people that go to school for like gazillion, I'm saying billions of years. I'm thinking of doctors. And if I went to school that long, that'd be like billions of years for me. But like people who like really educate themselves fully on a particular subject and they just know so much about it. And yes, you can trust these people, right? Like that's the thing, is like you should be able to trust these people who have worked because that's how our society operates, right? We have people who are so good at what they do that other people can rely on them. You know, that's why I think people watch my tarot videos, is because like I feel like I'm good at what I do. And so people, you know, if people are coming to you for that, for your skill or your talent, you're good at what you do. And for me, like growing up, that was really important to me, is I wanted to find something that I was good at, that I actually could provide a service for people and people could come to me, you know, because in a true sense, I'm very service oriented. Like I want to provide that service for people and help people in whatever way that would be the easiest for me to do, right? That was my most natural talent, you know, that kind of came to me almost effortlessly. That was just a dream I had growing up, or like something that I started learning about and wanting in my like early 20s. So yeah, overall though, you have to follow your own judgment, and you can have prophets, you can have people telling you things, you can have people trying to give you the secrets to life. But for me personally, when I watch that stuff, I always feel empty afterwards, or I always feel like I missed something, or I'm lacking something, or it just never jives with my understanding of how things are, you know, which is interesting because that can also change. Your perspective of things can change. Your understanding of how things are can totally change. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. Concluding statement, you know, I don't know, I wanna, you know, I'm thinking of the Beatles, always love, you know, but I guess that's something we didn't talk about in this video, was like love, but that's a whole other topic. And yeah, maybe we'll talk about love in the next video. It was great talking to you guys today. Thank you for watching. You know, if you're interested in tarot readings or pick a cards, I have a YouTube channel with all of that. I don't know where this video is going. It's going on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I'm even going to post it. Who knows? But yeah, have a YouTube channel, pick a cards, and I offer personal readings for those of you who are interested. And yeah, don't sweat it if you find someone that you really like, but they don't fit every box of accuracy. If there's a reason you like someone, if there's a reason this is where love comes in, right? If there's a reason you connect with someone, this is where it's like kind of the opposite of how I'm perceiving things in a way. My laundry's going off, confirmation. One more message for you guys. This video is almost over. I apologize for it being so long. Love is that connection and that reaching out. Love is the prophet sharing the information. Love is the person who is giving the service, right? That's where love comes in, right? It's great to have our own individual opinions. It's great to have that individual sense of self that, knows something's not right when someone shares something with us. Because in a way, that's love too, love for ourselves. But when we're looking outward and we're wanting connection, whether that's through knowledge, where we're wanting someone to approve of us, or where we're wanting someone to seek the truth, that can even be love, because you're looking to something. And when someone shares a piece of that truth with you, that can also be love. Now, if something doesn't jive, there's a piece that doesn't fit, don't worry about it. In that moment, you're disconnecting from someone, and you're following yourself, and you're giving yourself that care and understanding and love. But when you do connect, that can be a beautiful thing too, because that's someone who's sharing your truth. Even if you haven't thought of that truth before and someone's telling you it and you're like, whoa, that's accurate, or whoa, that resonates, or whoa, that's so deep. Whatever your reaction is, even if you've never thought of it before, when they're sharing it with you and you are saying that's truth, that is a connection. That is you actually having that thought yourself. That's where we're all kind of connected as one, if you think about it. And don't worry about because I know the flip side of this argument is like, well, if the goal is to all be connected as one, shouldn't all of our truths be the same all the time? Not necessarily, right? It's important for us to have our separate truths that are just for us. There's two worlds and they're always doing a dance. There's the inner world and the outer world, and they're always dancing. Sometimes we think of the inner world as an ego, and the outer world is kind of like not. The ego is a whole other thing, but we're allowed to have our own private sense of self. And we're allowed to connect with other people and have love and share with other people. All of these things are super important for our growth and development. It's important for us to trust ourselves, and it's important for us to have discernment. It's also important for us to connect. Because when we share ideas with other people and what they're saying really resonates with us on a deep level, that is true connection. Whether it's through ideas, and possibly through finances, through work, through whatever. When we're sharing and connecting, that is love, I'm probably only thinking of ideas and love because I have a lot of Libra. Well, I'm a Libra moon. So I'm probably I'm also a Libra rising, I think. Although sometimes I think I'm a Scorpio rising. I think I'm really close on that cusp of both. Yeah, just don't sweat it if you don't fully connect with someone, and don't sweat it if, someone who you totally don't connect with too can have a nugget of wisdom as well. Someone you're just man, I don't like anything they say, and then one moment they say something, you're like, that was pretty truthful, but how can I believe it? They're so bad. They're a horrible person, we're meant to have these fluctuations, so stay loving, stay true to yourself, and look at reality through your own camera lens. Better yet, just look at reality yourself. Which really, it's funny because the only way we can share reality is through these camera lenses. In my analogy, is through showing a picture to someone else. And sometimes it's it's someone shows you a picture. It's oh, that's very much like my picture. I'm gonna get lost in the woods here. I gotta end this video. But yeah, thank you guys for being here with me. I really appreciated it. Hopefully this lighting's not too jarring. I try to make a more intimate lighting thing going on. So hopefully that was decent for you guys in this video. Anyway, I'm gonna end it. Bye guys, thanks for watching.